So, moment of like full transparency and like pulling back the curtains for a quick moment. There's not many things that I'm like restricted from doing. I can pretty much say whatever I want within reason here on Nets Republic. I am not permitted to curse, and I am not supposed to be wearing anything that is not Brooklyn Nets related. But I won't tell if you won't. I'm just too lazy to change my shirt. Listen. Mikal Bridges went on the Paul George podcast thing, which, man, Paul George better be dropping an album. I'm sorry. Like this better be leading up to a mixtape or something like that, because his press run this summer is putting Kyrie's to shame. I mean, this is I ain't never seen nothing like this. I mean, like the way this man is out there getting them clout coins is absolutely majestic. Paul George is really doing his thing to make sure that after basketball, he's going to be perfectly fine in his future endeavors. I feel like Draymond Green is trying it, but it don't hit the way Paul George's stuff does. And I think it's because Paul George has saying his name so many times makes me sound insane, because out of context, if you say Paul George, it's like, what are you talking about? But we all know who that is, but that's not here there. I think it's because he has got a incredible not incredible, but a entertaining cast of individuals as co-hosts. I feel like that like really does it. I feel like Trae Young's podcast, like Trae and his friend, aren't particularly interesting. Some of these basketball player podcasts are like, but this one, Paul George, is really, really good. Anyway, Mikal Bridges was on it this week, and he started to spill the tea, as you might say. And while this summer has been pretty dry in comparison to the last really 3 or 4, because there's no drama. Like, there's nothing going on. We don't have players that are not going to take a vaccine. Like, no one's trying to leave the team. Like, there's no drama this summer. So it's like scrounging from stories is a little bit more difficult than it has been in the past. I think this is the first time I've covered a team where there was no drama surrounding the team, so it ain't easy this offseason, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, Mikal Bridges went on to the Paul George podcast thing, and he started to spill the tea. One of the main things that he was talking about is, we'll get to the Ben Simmons thing in a second, because that's the point of this video, but the tea that I wanted to kind of highlight for a second, and I feel like not many people are talking about, I feel like we're all rushing to the Ben Simmons part, but we're not talking about the fact that when confronted about what was going on with the Cam Thomas situation, how there was an acknowledgement that Cam was out there dropping 40 and 50 pieces. Again, we just ignore that entirely. The fact that he was dropping 40 and 50 pieces, he was giving the sauce over to the Clippers, which Paul George was on. He was giving the sauce over to the Phoenix Suns, which Mikal and Cam Johnson were on. And then everyone comes to the team after the trade request of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and all of a sudden we just don't see Cam Thomas anymore on the court. And if we do see him, it's in sparing minutes, and he's in a really limited role. Well, we heard from the mouth of Mikal Bridges and Paul George to a lesser extent. I say lesser because I don't care about Paul George. Real quick backstory. I despise that man. I will hate him for the rest of my days. Their coach, whose name I can't remember, Frank Vogel, I think, Lance Stevenson, George Hill, Roy Hibbert, all of them. For what they did to Melo in the second round, I will always hate them, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so Paul George, to a lesser extent, co-signed it a little bit, but they were speaking to the greatness of Cam Thomas, and that in practice, when he takes these crazy, unorthodox shots, he's making every one of them. He's out there handling his business to the upteenth power. And it's just fascinating that all of a sudden he just doesn't get minutes anymore. Now, Mikal alluded to it's because he arrived and they gave the team to him, basically. Now, they didn't really speak much else on it, but the fact that it was mentioned at all means other teams, other players, and the players on the team are aware and see what's going on. Now, I have made this 1000% clear. I support the team. They're my team. I love them to death, don't get me wrong. I feel like, are we going into season number 5 now that I've been covering the team? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've put my just dues in, right? I can be accepted as a normal fan. I'm not a transplant anymore, right? But I don't like Mikal Bridges. I don't like Mikal. He seems like a great guy. I've got nothing personally against him. It's not like the Kyrie thing where I can't stand him as a person. Like, he seems like a cool dude. Don't get me wrong. Seems like your average Joe who's just really good at basketball. Shout out to Mr. Mikal Bridges. I just don't like the way that the Nets decided this is your hero. Love him, love him. Because like, the order of events was Cam Thomas is going off and dropping literal 50 pieces on championship contenders, and we're winning. They're not empty stats. We're winning. And then you bring in Mikal and everyone else, and we literally never see him again. Even the fact that Claxton is considered a role player is insanity to me. Claxton is the best, most talented, highest ceiling individual on the team. I would venture to say he's currently the best player, but we give all the attention to Mikal. And I'm not saying that this is a either or thing. They can all exist on the team together, but it was to my understanding that with what Cam Thomas was doing, with what Claxton was doing, you're just adding role players around them to make things better to fill out the team. But these role players are being called stars. I'm not saying Mikal's not amazing. I'm not saying he should take a backseat to anyone. I'm trying to figure out why the decision we chose was Cam Thomas gets banished to the island of misfit toys. If there's no room in the starting lineup for him, cool. But give him meaningful minutes off the bench at the least. And I just have to ask, what bench player drops 50 points and then gets 30 DMPs? I just don't understand it. And again, I'm here for Mikal. I'll take it. We appreciate your contributions. I think the Selly's corny, but that's fine. You know what I mean? Get your Brooklyn Bridges takes off. Why not? I just don't see why this has become an either or. It should be, look, we have Mikal and Cam Thomas. Not, oh, we have Mikal, we don't need Cam. I don't know how we got to that point. And again, people tend to forget what happened. That's why people like me exist on the internet, to remind you. All my videos are video documentation. We can go back through the files in the archives to see what were we thinking at this period of time. That's why there's dates on these videos when we have a game. So we can go back to exact days and times and be like, well, what were Nets fans thinking at this time period? You can go back and look what the energy was, what the storylines were, what the narratives were at that time when Cam was going off. And the fact that the second we got new players, they just banished him, and he just never played again. It's mind-boggling. But at least he's still on the team. He's a part of the Stay Ready group or whatever. If somebody were to get hurt, you know, you never wish that. But if someone were to be hurt, Cam Thomas can, you know, rise up and do what he just did. And hopefully he's rewarded this time. You know, we got some new individuals. I think we just signed a center the other day, some dude in the G League or some shenanigans or something like that. So, I mean, again, the roster isn't super competitive to where he can't get minutes, but it seems like this is very much a defensive-oriented group where if you don't play defense, you don't play. So maybe that's going to be the thing that stifles the growth of Cam Thomas. I don't know. I just know that if there are injuries and we have no one else to put out there, I feel like he is going to be a spark plug, especially from the severe lack of three-point shooting that we have on this team. I feel like Cam's going to fill that role, but that's neither here nor there. So that's my personal take from this, something I feel like not many people are talking about. The main event, what everyone's here for, is the Ben Simmons stuff, right? There was a extensive conversation, and I say extensive because I'd venture to say 15, the final 15 minutes was Ben Simmons exclusive. And while we've heard from individuals like JJ Redick, which I don't know why we're asking him for Ben Simmons takes when they haven't played together in half a decade, but cool. But it was interesting hearing the perspective of someone who actually plays with him and who is with him currently. Mikal Bridges was talking about how good of a guy he is, how he's active in the group chat. Again, the group chat gets mentioned when the last time we heard it, Ben Simmons left the group chat, allegedly. So again, it's good to see that those narratives are indeed false, and that Ben Simmons is a active member of the team and participating on and off the court and such. They talked about how it doesn't really matter if Ben Simmons is going to be offensively aggressive or not, because they believe in him, and that he was legitimately hurt, and he feels as if that there are unfair narratives placed on him, which again, I don't, and if you don't remember, that's cool, but I don't know how you get slapped in the face and then you have a knee injury and then you end up having back surgery. I don't know how those things correlate, but hey, I'm not a doctor, I guess. So again, everyone guard your face, because your knee will hurt and then you'll have to get back surgery. I don't really know how all that connects or makes any coherent sense, but that's neither here nor there. They were talking about how even if he has a bad game or something like that, they'll still go get food at a restaurant after the game. So that's cool. And like in terms of team chemistry, I guess that's great. The weird thing about the NBA and specifically the Brooklyn Nets is you can't really take any of this at face value, because they can mess around and trade someone the next day, and then everyone is doing the interviews like, oh, well, it's a business. And I'll bring this up until the end of time. Karis LeVert had like a breakout game where it was really seeming like, oh my God, he gets it. He's back. We're going to be fine. The core is what it is. Then we traded for Harden the literal next day. So it's like, I don't know how to take certain things in the NBA, but for the time being, as of 2 days ago when the podcast was uploaded, I don't know when it was recorded, but when it was uploaded about 2 days ago onto YouTube, because I'm not listening to a podcast on Spotify, what? But anyway, they seem to all be good. They seem to all have confidence in each other, and everyone seems to be leaning on the idea of defensive identity, and that we're just going to play such good defense that it will make up for all the other flaws, and that's what we're going to start. We're going to be a defensive-oriented team. Now, I think a lot of this stuff with Ben Simmons is peak shenanigans, and I feel like a lot of us are going in the same trend that a lot of Sixers fans do, where we get our hopes up in the offseason about what Ben Simmons can contribute and what workout videos he's posting and stuff, and then you get into the year and nothing really changes. The only difference is, for the Sixers, nothing changed as in like the norm was like a constant, right? Like he never developed a jump shot. He was still a great passer and amazing on defense, but he never really improved. For us, that means he's never going to do anything. I think he played like, 20 games or something like that? So it's like, that will be the norm of us getting 20 to 30 games from him until his contract expires and he retires to be a Twitch streamer or something like that. I want to buy it, especially from the standpoint of creating content. I think from a content creation standpoint, it makes sense for me to buy in to the Ben Simmons hype, but the realistic side of me just refuses to get my hopes up. I just can't do it. Now, what I'm going to do just to make things interesting is next week I'm going to make a video about all the positives that Ben Simmons could possibly bring if he's healthy. I just want to make it 1000% clear that I don't believe any of this. I'm simply trying to be positive, because I feel like for the last month I've made nothing but negative videos, so I'm going to try to be positive. So next week, I'm going to get on here and I'm trying to compile a list of all the good things that Ben Simmons can add to the team, because it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere, and we got to make this work. The way Mikal was sharing stories, it sounds to me like he's our starting point guard. And by him, I mean Ben Simmons. So I will compile a list of things that are positive about Ben Simmons based on last season and what he can bring to the team. It's not going to be easy, but I will do that. I suggest you do the same thing, and we'll meet back here in a week, and we'll have a positive Ben Simmons video. Because it doesn't really seem like he's going anywhere else. And what else do you want me to talk about? But that's not here nor there. Let me know your thoughts down below on Mikal on this podcast, and I will see you next week for a positive Ben Simmons video. Obviously, if something crazy happens in between there, then you will see me again. But as currently scheduled, we are going to come back in a week and reconvene and talk about Ben Simmons. Yeah.